Hello, everyone. Hi, how are you? Whether you're watching on Behance or I believe we're also going live on YouTube right now, thank you so much for joining in. I'm Hallease Narvaez, a digital storyteller, video producer, former Adobe creative resident as well. And today well, for the week actually, we are going to be diving into Premiere Pro and talking about it more from a content creator's perspective of how to take a lot of content that maybe you've shot over the week and then break that up into a ton of different things. If we go ahead and share our screen, we can get going. So again, I'm Hallease, a digital storyteller, video producer. I run a production company called Stumblewell. I am also a content creator on YouTube. Your girl just hit 100K. Can we talk about it? Amazeballs. But what I'm going to talk about today is how you can, again, take a week's worth of content and turn it into a whole bunch of different, maybe reels, shorts, maybe your long form video as well. And we're going to get kind of inside baseball a little bit with it. It might seem a little dull. I'm not going to lie to you, just because when you're talking about organization, it's kind of dull, but this is actually how you're able to up your overall production value and content quickly. So without further ado, in today's live, I'm going to show you a little bit of my organization process, how I build out everything from what I'm making, and then start to talk a little bit about like how I actually brainstorm ideas for content going into everything as well. So if you do have questions, make sure to throw them in the chat on Behance and YouTube. We have some amazing moderators helping me out. I can only see the Behance chat currently for the week. I'm sorry, y'all, on YouTube, but I can only see the Behance one. So if you have questions, throw them there. I'll try to check in as well and see what's going on. So before we get going, or not even before we get going, we're well into this now, huh? I wanted to show y'all my folder structure. And again, we're getting into sort of like, I don't want to say the lame things about creating content, but it's definitely not like the cute stuff. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bigger for y'all so you can see. But this is my basic folder structure that I keep when I know I'm going to create a whole bunch of new videos. And I tend to plan my content strategy in terms of months. So this is the folder structure that I save. And you see it's called copy over folder structure. I just have it as in my assets folder, like on my desktop or on my documents here on my computer. And sorry, I'm advanced the taking out the trash in my apartment, so you might be able to hear that in the background. But this is the breakdown of everything I do. So After Effects, Archive, if I'm pulling footage that I've shot in the past, assets, exports, the footage that I will be slowly using and adding in, music, the actual Premiere Pro folder itself, renders, thumbnails, and then finally, if I do incorporate any voiceover, that's where it goes as well. So I take this folder structure and I tend to plan my content in terms of months. So right now we're in January. You see I have a folder called 0101 2023. And you can now see, again, let me make it bigger for y'all. You can now see I have taken said folder structure and now translated it into what I'm currently doing for the month of January. So footage 1, Mexico City, play button, because I got my 100K subscriber play button this month. Footage 2 is 100K giveaway I'm doing on my channel for hitting 100K. Footage 3, a day in the life, is some stuff I'm doing with Skillshare. And then footage 4, a Duro mask. Cool. And so, yeah, here is how I keep things organized. And then at the end of the month, I offline this whole thing and put it onto whatever sort of long form storage or media I'm using. Usually it's just a hard drive that I keep available. Now, the other important thing to recognize with this is as we get into Premiere and y'all start watching me build everything out, you're going to see that I don't actually open Premiere just sort of willy-nilly, like I would say most people, maybe most content creators, maybe most of y'all do. I rarely just open Premiere, and build a new project. I actually always work from a master Premiere Pro project. And what I mean by that is I've taken the time to build out a Premiere Pro project that has a lot of the assets that I know I will need consistently. So maybe it's stuff around like different assets I've made as overlays, or maybe it has different textures and backgrounds that I like to use. I have taken the time to build a Premiere Pro project for that and just keep that handy. So when I'm actually starting a new series of content, I end up going to the second folder that I have here called Copy Over Premiere. And this is the Premiere Pro project that I have built. And in here sits all the things that I have added to that Premiere Pro project. So I'm very rarely ever opening Premiere and starting from that window that allows you to drop your footage in and things like that. I'm always working from a project I've already built. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to Command C, Control C this project. And I'm going to go back into 01/01/2023 here, and I'm just going to pretend like we're starting a new month. And I'm going to open it up. I'm going to just drop the project in there. And then I'm also going to go over here to my copy over folder structure. Copy that, drop it in. And then I'm going to throw this Premiere Pro project in there into Premiere, and I'm going to rename it. And we're just going to name this CDMX, which will make sense in a second. And we'll call this Bootcamp because that's what we're doing here. Now, this is how I start every month. That is what I do. And then from there, I would go through and add my footage. So for the rest of this live, we're going to go through and start organizing everything, build our Premiere Pro project. And then also we're going to try to pull as much content as we can out of what I shot in Mexico City. That's why we're calling this CDMX. So towards the end of last year, between Christmas and New Year's, I took a trip to Mexico City with my friends with the goal of trying to see how much content I could create in a month from that. And before we even open Premiere again, we're still in organizational mode. I'm going to talk through a little bit about my process of how I start to think about vlogs as well when creating content. So I think there's like two camps you can exist in when it comes to creating vlogs on your channel. The one camp is you really truly are sort of taking a documentarian film approach where you just have your camera and you're just capturing as much as you can and then sort of finding the story in your edit, which I have done a lot of vlogs like that. I usually use vlogs as a way to strengthen my post-production storytelling muscle and also my cinematography. I just kind of try to focus on getting as pretty shots as I can. The other way is to kind of come into it with a little bit of an outline, which I think if you're trying to oh, y'all want me to make it bigger? Yes, I can. Which if you're trying to push out as much content as you can, I think making some sort of loose strategy can help a lot with that. So let's see here. Let's see, can I do that? That'll probably help. Kind of messed it up, but that's okay. So this is just something I did on my notes app, maybe like a day or two before going to Mexico City. I just kind of sat down and was like, okay, what are some content ideas around Mexico City that I can throw out there, you know? Let's see. So I put on here my high-end and low-end vlogging setup because I did take a more expensive camera with me. So maybe showing like, here's how I vlog with my FX3 versus here's how I vlog with my Sony ZV-1, my little camera that I like to use. Other things. Okay, what if I do like an outfit of the day, like travel outfits of the day? I could probably build something around that. Flat lay of what I eat as someone who's pre-diabetic. So like trying to watch the carb intake and stuff like that. Airbnb tour. Okay. I'm pretty sure where we're staying is actually kind of cool. Maybe let me consciously think about capturing that. So when I talk about it in the vlog, we're good to go. And then things like this, vlog day 1, 2, 3, 4, like thinking about how I know I'm going to make a longer piece of content, but Eventually, I know I'm going to also break that content up. So maybe thinking about how I utilize language filming on the spot to give each day sort of an intro and an outro in my mind. Also, I know a little bit of Spanish, so maybe showing myself speaking Spanish to like order coffee or something like that. And then I also put some notes in here to think about, to remember while I'm there. Something I can just look at again on my phone, on my computer, on my iPad, whatever I'm using, because notes goes across everything. Things like, okay, remember where to say where we're going before we leave. Like those little sort of connecting story dots, you know, from one place to another. Give a recap after the fact while they're at the spot, potentially. Like take 5 seconds, move away from the group, and just kind of talk about how I felt of wherever we were. Things like that. And then finally, I also thought like, oh, it could be cool to do some whip pan transitions. So this was actually while I was there deciding how I would do the whip pans. I put little notes of like, okay, I whipped to the left and right, and that was the wing of the plane. I whipped to the left and down, and that was the peace sign, like keeping little notes as I was going along. So these are all the sort of tools I utilize when I go into creating a vlog. And again, this is just like, you know, super basic on the notes app. Nothing crazy, right? It's not a full-fledged script. I am trying to leave space for creativity with the vlog, but I'm also trying to make sure that at the end of the day, I am getting enough content to do something, you know? So now that we've gone through that, let's officially open up this project that we've built. And again, you're going to see my Master Premiere Pro project, and we're going to kind of walk through it a little bit. And I'm also going to try to show you a few things within Premiere Pro that I think can be helpful when you're starting to edit. So there we go. Yeah, Premiere Pro is opening up. Now, usually what I would do as well, while we're waiting for Premiere to open, usually what I would do is I would show y'all how I actually put my footage in, but it's already here on my computer. So, you know, there we go. And there we go. Now Premiere's loading up. While Premiere's loading, I'll explain to you how I organize my footage as well. So I tend to shoot most of my stuff on the FX3. That's the camera I use for the most part. But again, I also use my ZV-1 and I use my iPhone as well. You know, iPhones do a lot, and I try to utilize anything and everything at my disposal. So when I'm bringing my footage in to my computer, this is generally how it looks. I usually organize my footage by what camera I shot it on. So with this, the FX3, and then I have a proxy folder. Now, I tend to shoot everything 4K. I'm trying to get the highest resolution I possibly can. I shoot Sony, and because of that, Sony's cameras naturally have, you can turn on a proxy feature where it essentially makes a lower resolution version of whatever you're recording. So that way your computer isn't too bogged down while you're editing. And so I have my Sony cameras to make a 1080p proxy for me while I'm filming, and I put those in a separate folder. And that will make sense in a second. I will show y'all how I actually take those proxies and attach them to my high-res 4K footage. And I actually edit through proxies for the most part. I don't ever really touch the 4K until I'm ready to export. And then finally, you see I have my ZV-1 footage, ZV-1 proxy photos, and then everything I shot on my iPhone as well. So here we are, we're in Premiere, and I'm going to show y'all just a couple of things that I think are relevant to keep in mind. We're going to make my project full screen for a second. There we go. And then we're going to make it bigger. Let's see, so y'all can see. There we go. So my Master Premiere Pro project looks like this. These are the types of things that I have built into my Master Premiere Pro project. Assets. So I've taken the time to create things like different adjustment layers at different sizes, my closed captions style. We're going to get into closed captions later this week. But my closed caption style already built in here ready. So like the type of font I like to use if I'm doing closed captions on my videos, all that kind of stuff. My color palette, I've taken the time to design my color palette and know what all of the values are, the color values for them as well, and just have them in here. I have some social PNGs, so like a Facebook PNG, you know what I'm saying? A YouTube PNG, things like that that I know, Patreon, I have a Patreon, things like that that I know I'm going to overlay on top of videos. I've taken the time to just build all of that out. My Stumblewell logo, the animation for my business. I have different textures that I like to work with that I'll use with my color palette backgrounds. I've also created, like, again, taking my color palette, I've created mats that are already in my color palette. So I can just literally drag and drop them into the timeline without having to go in and do all that stuff. If you do watch me on YouTube, I have a channel opener that I update once a year. So I have those built in, different sound effects that I know I'm going to hear. You know, YouTubers who do the bleep, bloop, bleep, all that kind of stuff. Like, I have that stuff in here already, ready to go. Let's see, text on screen. Ooh, this is a good one that I'll use. So, like, link in the description box, like things like that that I know people are going to request, or just call outs that I know I'm going to, you know, use a lot. My Instagram handle, things like that. These are third-party transitions. Adobe Stock also has great transitions, but I bought this before Adobe Stock really got going. So, but these are third-party transitions that I have just ready to use as well. And I would say I would really recommend doing this. This is what's going to save you so much time on the back end. And this is where Premiere Pro, I feel like, really shines, is that you can have so much of this stuff ready to go. So again, I want to say never, but I rarely open up a completely brand new project and like build things out. Like, when they changed to that in the update, I didn't notice because I was doing this. So I would really recommend, you know, take a weekend, try to organize all of that stuff into a Premiere Pro project. And then what I usually do is once or twice a year, things do get updated. You know, like I said, I shoot 4K now. So I think when I first designed this Premiere Pro project, I had designed it in 2K, you know, 1080p. And so I'm slowly going through and upgrading things to be 4K. The other thing I want to call out as well within Premiere Pro is just the overall layout of it. So right now we're in the editing layout. And if for some reason you're ever in a layout in Premiere and it looks weird or wonky, or maybe you had changed stuff, you can always just double click on any of the template setups, the workspaces, excuse me, let me use the proper term, the workspaces that Premiere Pro offers. You can always check those out and just reset up. So I want to just call out a few of my favorites that are now available in the setup with the latest update. One of them being vertical. So I'm going to double click on it and see if it'll let me load it up. There it goes. But I really like this workspace. So you see the program monitor is now to the side. It's opened up the essential graphics controls already as well. Like, it's just adjusted and moved things. So that way, if you're someone who mostly creates in a vertical workspace, it's set up to do that for you now. And I actually really like this when I'm toggling from doing horizontal, you know, sort of traditional long form content into vertical content. This is a really nice setup to keep in mind. But generally, when I'm editing, I actually have a custom workspace that I've created when I'm editing, and my workspace is called Finalizing. And I just want to briefly go through it with y'all so you can see. Now, it looks insane, probably, if you're looking at it. It looks insane, but I really love this setup for me personally because of a few things. One, it sort of gets me ready to do all the final things that I know I'll want to do on a longer form project. So my essential graphics panel is already to the side. My essential sound panel, so when I'm ready to start making a lot of more detailed sound adjustments, it's ready. And then my Lumetri color scopes as well, or my Lumetri color panel as well, is ready to go. So I can easily toggle through these three things because these are sort of the three finalizing things I'm doing in Premiere after I've done, you know, a very rough edit of something and I'm ready to start fine tuning. I'm ready to start finalizing it. And then everything else I think is pretty self-explanatory for me. And my finalizing also, I have the captions table pulled up as well, ready to go as a tab in my source. And then finally, my program monitor, timeline, etc. So all of this stuff is how I'm able to sort of quickly move through getting a video done. And again, I say it's not that cute because it's not, you know, but this is the kind of stuff that helps you to push out constant content more consistently, however you define consistency for yourself. I'm going to hop in the Behance chat real quick because I feel like I've said a lot and I just want to make sure y'all are good. If there's any questions that you had, go ahead and throw them in the chat because I'm going to take a goose and a gander down at it for a second and see how y'all are doing. I see people saying hi to everybody, which is cute. Love that for us. Shout out to our moderators doing amazing work. You know, thank you guys. Appreciate y'all. Let's see. Anybody? Any questions? It is a little difficult to see. I know it is difficult to see my screen, isn't it? Let's see if I can adjust some preferences real quick to make everything like bigger. Don't think I can. So sorry, y'all. Unfortunately for Macs as well, you can do access control, you know, to zoom in, but it doesn't show up on lives, which is really frustrating. So yeah, I will figure that out before our live tomorrow. Since you're stuck with me all week, I will try to figure that out before tomorrow. So that way tomorrow's live, it's a bit easier to see my screen. Any other thoughts though? Any other questions before we move on? Before we finally bring in some footage into Premiere? I see none. New messages, new messages. Scroll, scroll. All right. Everyone's just hanging out and saying hi to folks. I love to see it. If you're over on YouTube, I can't see the YouTube chat. So I'm only looking at the Behance chat today. But yeah, any questions, throw them in. All right. So now that I've shown you a little bit about the setup, let's do the editing setup, which is a very straightforward setup. And I actually really like when I'm bringing new footage into Premiere. I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop in some new footage. And that's generally how I do it because I have the proxies. And again, we're going to go over proxies in a second. And yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But over here in the project folder, I'm going to hit Command B, Control B on a PC. There we go. Where's my bin at? I made this so big and I can't like see. Oh, it's throwing my bins. Whoops. Okay, hold on. Let me make this smaller so I can see y'all. Sorry. It's like throwing me off that this thing is like massive. Okay. Command B, Control B to create a new bin. And then I'm going to call this bin footage and I'm going to call it CDMX because that's what we're doing. And then I'm going to click inside of it. And now I'm going to bring in our footage. And I'm only going to bring in our FX3 and ZV1 footage for now, because again, it is 4K. And so it's like, it's a lot of stuff. So, all right, we've thrown it in. Looks good. It's there. Let's go ahead and see what we got. As you can see, we got a whole bunch. Oh, let's make this full screen. Got to remember, it's small. Y'all can't see. All right. So as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of stuff that I've shot. Most of it is at 23.976 frames per second, but a few of it is at 60 frames per second as well. Quick tip, if you're someone who likes to vlog and you find that when you're vlogging, your coverage, your B-roll coverage tends to be quite minimal, and you're like, dang it, I should have held on that shot a little longer. Try shooting in 60 frames per second if you know you're just trying to get general filler B-roll shots or just up the frame rate in general. 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, play around with that. Make sure you set your shutter to be double. Okay, so since we're at 60 frames per second, your shutter should at least be 1/120th, all right? So that way you're actually getting the smoothest B-roll possible. But yeah, so I have a couple of shots that are also in 60 frames a second. So let's start playing around with a few things. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually go through and attach the proxies that my camera created for me as well to help Premiere handle all of this footage, because it is quite a bit of footage. And as you can tell, Premiere's like, oh my gosh, we have to go through all of this. And part of this is also because I need to clear off my computer a little bit as well. Usually my computer doesn't struggle with it, but I have been just housing way too much on my system. Another thing you can actually do is also work, and which you should probably do, by the way, work from a hard drive. I live my life on the edge. I work from the computer, and then I offline it later. I just live a crazy life. That's just who I am, you know, in my heart chakra. But anyway, what we're going to do to attach the proxies, we're going to right click on all of our footage while it's highlighted. And then we are going to go to proxy. And you can also use Premiere to create proxies. So say, I think Canon doesn't create proxies in the camera. You can also just create proxies after the fact. In Premiere, it'll do that for you. But I have proxies already. So I'm going to attach proxies. It's going to bring up a new window for me. And then I'm just going to hit attach. And it's going to bring up another new window. And I'm going to go to where my proxy folder is. And usually, yes, it highlights the clip that has the same name of the first clip already. I'm going to hit open. It links them all automatically because they all have the same name and media start. And now my footage has proxies. You can't see, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit there, but you'll see it says proxy right here and it says attached. And that's how I know that it has officially attached the proxies. And again, what proxies are a way to work from lower resolution footage instead of the full, especially if you shoot 4K and your computer is older or slower or whatever, instead of working from the full footage, that is what proxies are good for. If you're someone who is a content creator and you like to have 4K and your computer is like screaming at you because you're filming 4K and everything, mess around with proxies and edit from proxies. Again, so my proxies are 1080p instead of the full 4K, and my computer handles that a lot better. We're going to do that again for my ZV-1 as well. I believe I have proxies for this too. So we're just highlighting all of them, right-clicking, attaching proxies. Going to go to attach. And then sure enough, let's see, there we go, ZV-1 proxy, open, they all linked up, boom. And you can see that the proxies are attached because of that little blue 2 squares that are being like circled and connected to each other. That's how you know you have your proxies attached, and they're currently active right now as well. So let me get out of full screen with our project. Perfect. Where are we at on time? Ooh, okay, we're at the 30. Cool. Any questions so far on anything that I have talked about? Throw them in the chat on Behance if you're there, hanging with us. No, I see no questions. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Someone asked what proxies are. I think I described it pretty well. Let me know if you want me to tell you what they are again, and I can do that. B-roll. This Sean person is having fun in the chat. Hi, Sean. Love it. All right, so now that we have attached our proxies and everything, the other thing I want to show you is how to manipulate your footage. So like I said before, I have a lot of footage in here that's also been shot at a higher frame rate. I want to say it's been shot at 50 frames per second, right? And let's see here. Let's see what one of these are. And it's auto saving, so we'll let it auto save for a second. Oh my gosh, you're making a laughing emoji. Did I not describe proxies well for you? Umacorn, I hope I said your name right. Do you want me to describe proxies again? I can. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see some of the footage that I shot at 60. Let's get to some of it. So I shot it at 60, and that means when I play it, it's gonna be at 60 frames per second, which we might want sometimes, but we also might not want, you know, like we might not actually want it at 60 because then it'll look too jittery and fast. So there are a few ways that you can slow down footage that you've shot at a higher frame rate. And I would say the easiest way is to just drag it into the timeline and then, you know, mess with the speed and duration of it. But another way is you can actually just modify the clip itself. So I'm going to make this bin full screen again so I can see. And I'm just going to create a new bin in this FX3 folder. So Command B, Control B to create a new bin. And I'm going to call this slow-mo. And everything that I see that's at a higher frame rate other than 23.97, which is what I shoot at, everything that's at a higher frame rate, I'm going to actually go through and take all those clips, which there they are. I'm going to take all those clips. I'm going to Command C, Control C on a PC. And then I'm going to go into my slow-mo, again, which is my empty bin, and then I'm Command V, Control V to paste them into there. Now you see we still are at this frame rate of 59.94, aka 60 frames per second. They're still all highlighted. I'm now going to right-click, and I'm going to go to Modify, Interpret Footage. And that's going to bring up a new window. And you'll see right here, frame rate is the first section of this new window, right? And I'm going to assume this frame rate. And it says 1 frame per second. That would be like crazy slow and it would be so jittery. We're not doing that. But we're going to change it to 24. We're going to change it to what our base frame rate for our projects will be. And then we're going to hit OK. And now you see everything has now changed to 24. So when I actually go through and let's find something to play. Let's find something that isn't like too bad. That doesn't show my terrible shooting skills from time to time when I'm vlogging. Here we go. I see some plants. I love a good plant video. Here we go. Let's double click on it. Brings it up. And then let's turn off proxies. One thing about this with proxies, though, if you have proxies turned on, it'll still play it at the 60 frames a second. So I have to turn proxies off. But now it's going to hopefully, because we have to go full 4K on that, but it's going to hopefully play it a little bit slowed down, and you'll see the process of how you can now shoot. So I like to do this and have these just ready to go. And the other thing I like to do when I have this ready, and this is just, again, all we're doing is like going in here and like building out this project the way I like. The other thing I like to do is I like to label these to be a different color so I can easily spot them on my timeline as I'm slowly building out a full video or creating content. So I'm going to go through again. We're in our slow-mo folder right now. Let me make it full screen again for y'all. We're in our slow-mo folder right now. I'm going to have all of these highlighted. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to label. And I'm going to make all of my slow-mo footage that I have now translated to be slow-mo and ready to go. I'm going to make it like brown, a color that, I don't know, I just think like it stands out to me when I'm editing in the timeline. I just like to have that ready. So now all of these clips, when they get brought into my timeline, will be brown and I'll easily be able to spot them. All right, so that's another thing we've done. Now, let's go to full screen again. Something I want to do now is I want to go ahead and just like get a sequence ready. So with my sequence bin highlighted, excuse me, I'm going to go Command in, Control in, which brings up my new sequence folder, new sequence window. And again, everything I shoot is 4K, so it's already like where it should be. But I usually use the red settings, HD 4K, 23.976. And let's just call this like, all the talking head stuff. And let's hit OK. So something else I would usually do as I'm building out a Premiere Pro project for something like this, where I know I'm going to pull and be trying to look for a lot of different stuff, is I create a multitude of sequences So that way I can eventually, and we'll go over this later on in the week, so I can eventually start pancaking my sequences. So then I can just pull things directly from one sequence into another. So for now, talking head, we have our sequence ready. Let's go into our FX3 footage and let's just look for all the places where it's obvious I was talking to camera. So where I was doing more like traditional vlog stuff. Okay, so I see one here, and you can see when I'm in here, I can scroll. All I did was click on the, excuse me, all I did was click on the clip and hover around it and scroll, and I can kind of see what's available, you know? So there's one. I'm just gonna willy-nilly like just drop it in, you know? I'm not gonna like focus too hard on anything. Also, quick thing while I'm looking at this, I want to mess with my sequence settings or my project settings to make sure this project isn't still, aha, it is. But okay, now that looks way better. All right. I was like, what is happening? All right, so let me explain what I just did. Something that's new to Premiere Pro as well is how Premiere Pro interprets color. So if you're someone who's been utilizing your iPhone a lot to film footage and you've been utilizing the HDR capabilities, so high dynamic range of your iPhone, and you'll notice you'll be filming something and then you bring it into Premiere and it's like blown out and crazy, and you have to like go into Lumetri Color and drop down the exposure. And thankfully, usually probably no information is lost in your video. Great, but the way to sort of like circumvent that and kind of have Premiere interpret your footage with an HDR footage sort of like mindset is to go up to File, down to project settings, General, and then Color Management here at the bottom. So HDR graphics white. And what this does is it's a combination ratio of HLG to PQ, which are different ways of interpreting color in your footage. So if you're someone who's experimenting with S-Log or V-Log or C-Log footage, right? Footage that's like super flat. If you're someone who's experimenting with that because you want to try to get the most dynamic range of color, this is where you go to begin to start to manipulate that. Premiere interprets color a multitude of ways using a multitude of different settings, but I always start here because I tend to shoot HLG with my footage. And so I always want to make sure that my HDR graphics white is set to 300. Just so reference again though. So you see what happened, right? When I set it to 300, you see how now we're not losing so much. We're still kind of losing some stuff because it was a really sunny day. And I was just running and gunning, so I didn't really adjust things. But let's switch it back so y'all can see the difference. Switch it back to what it was, which was 100. Hit that. Crazy blown out. Like, whoa, it looks like I don't know what I'm doing as a cinematographer. Which, I mean, you know, sometimes I don't. But that day I did. I did know what I was doing. So we're going to switch it to 300. And this is how I start when I'm editing in general with color. All right. So now this one, I can tell I'm talking here as well. Let's go ahead and throw this in here. Let's see, where else am I talking? This one I can see as well. And you'll notice I'm just dragging the whole clips in because we're going to like do other things and edit from them later. This one I'm talking. So we're just going to throw that in as well. Hello. Cool. And then this one, let's see. That one, dude. Cool. Got to do a lot of interesting stuff in Mexico City. Here's some I'm talking. I'm going to highlight both of them. Save time here. Ooh, I was talking for a while with that one. Jeez. What did I even say? Was it relevant? You'll notice we're starting to get off of the timeline. So what I'm going to do is hit the backslash key so I can see my full timeline there. What else? Ooh, I see I'm looking at the camera here. So I obviously was talking about something there. I see some ruins. I know for sure I wasn't really talking much here. This was just, I did a mezcal tasting. Oh man, can we talk about, I probably can't talk about alcohol on the live, huh? It's not. All right. And that is the trip. Okay, so we have all of our talking head stuff now made into one timeline. I also know for a fact that I did do a couple of like interesting things that I know I'm going to want to cut shorts from while I was there. So first of them being the Airbnb. So I just want to go ahead and like have that footage like in a timeline that I can just mess with and have ready to pull selects from. So again, I'm going to hit Command in, Control in, and have my thing ready. And so let's call this just like Airbnb tour. Cool. FX3 again. Yes. And let's go ahead and get all of the Airbnb shots that looks like till there and throw them into a timeline. And then from here, yeah, which is good. Let's see, is there anything else I want to throw into a timeline? As I recall the trip, I don't think so. A lot of the rest of this, we're gonna just edit together as we go. And I think we'll be good. Any questions while I am here? Let me check the chat real quick. How y'all doing over there in the chat? Let's see. Thoughts, questions, concerns in the chat. Sean is in here cracking jokes. Phones can do video? Oh, man. Can we talk about how fun the community is for a second? So fun. So fun. Okay, cool. Y'all seem like y'all are doing good. We're going to keep moving forward because I believe, oh, we've got what? About 10 minutes left, I want to say, in this live before we got to pop off. So we have, what have we done? We have set up our Premiere Pro project. We've started to organize our footage a little bit based on camera. We've attached our proxies. We're feeling pretty good. And now we've also started to build out sequences of either B-roll or talking head stuff. Don't encourage Sean. Sorry, I will try not to as we move throughout the week. Okay, so let's see. Is there anything else that I want to show y'all for this first day? Anything else? Anything else? I don't want to get too epic into it because I want to make sure y'all aren't like overwhelmed with content. But from this point, this is when I would start to focus on trying to push out vertical content first. And so again, we're going with our talking head. I have a few spots in here where I know I was creating content specifically to go to social. Again, talking back through what we were talking about a little while ago when I mentioned like how I plan out my content using a notes, the Notes app on my iPhone. For all of you Android users, Google Docs, of course, is amazing. Google Keep as well. I also use those when I'm sharing with other content creators and building things as well. This may be the intro, but way over my head. Oh my goodness, watch the replay then. I'm sorry, Lisa. Watch the replay though. I'll try to go as slow as possible. Feel free to ask questions. There are no dumb questions. And also make sure to check out the Creator Camp community as well, because I teach everything I went through with this. I teach like even more in depth over there. So yeah, I'm sorry, Lisa. Don't be scared though. Don't run away. Premiere's awesome. All right. But let's start to real quickly with the last few minutes we have. I'm going to show y'all how I would start to edit like a short that I know I'm going to do. So new sequence, Command in, Control in, oop, wrong buttons. Command in, Control in, right? And I actually have custom sequences because I know the kind of stuff I want to make. And even my vertical videos are in 4K. That's how doing the most I am all the time. I'm ridiculous. But I know for sure that I did a little snippet while I was in this scene. I did a little snippet where I was like, ooh, I should talk about like 3 things to think about before coming to Mexico City. Because in the first day, I'd already kind of like learned some stuff, you know? This is my first trip to Mexico City, by the way. So let's say we're going to call this 3 tips Mexico. And we're going to hit OK. All right, so now we're vertical, right? Now, generally what you would do, I think what most people would do is they would then go into their footage. Well, I'll let you save. Thank you, Premiere, for knowing to save. Thank you. Okay, so I would go in, most people, what they would do is they would go into, say, wherever their footage is and go find the thing, right? Be looking and looking and looking and find the thing. And then there you go. Something I tend to do though is, again, I took the time to organize these sequences. I tend to pancake things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the three tips to Mexico, 3 tips for Mexico, and I'm going to pull it down and just do that. So now I have the talking head stuff up top and 3 tips to Mexico down below. So what I can now do is start to play this video from here. And I use a Logitech keyboard, and I have shortcuts programmed into my keyboard. But one of the ways I like to edit the fastest, especially as a content creator, is Command K, Control K on a PC to create cuts very quickly in a clip and then drop it into the next clip. So let's see. Let's watch me stumble through giving 3 tips.
It'll be December. It's December, and we're technically here in the dry season because it's December.
All right, so that's me just talking about the Airbnb and the time of year.
Keep in mind, if you're going to come to Mexico City, that maybe you don't know if you've never come here. First thing is...
Got it. All right, so this is where I start talking about my tips because I remembered, ooh, I should talk about the tips. All right, so let's play it and see what happens.
Lush. So...
Ooh, hopefully y'all can hear.
And then, what else was I going to say? Ooh. So, 3 things that I think are important to keep in mind if you're going to come to Mexico City.
Love that. Okay, so that's a little intro right there. Gonna cut.
So, 3 things.
And now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drag this down into here. And we're gonna keep our existing settings because, again, this is a vertical sequence that we're dragging this down into. And we shot this horizontally. We're gonna keep our existing settings, okay? So now it's popped down in there. And of course, it's not fitted right or anything like that. That's fine. We're going to keep going, though, because we're going to fix that later.
That maybe you don't know if you've never come here. First.
Okay, first thing. And then we're going to hit a Command K on the keyboard, Control K if you're on a PC to cut.
First thing is don't.
Oh, see?
So 3 things real quick that I think you should consider when you come to Mexico City. One is don't flush your toilet paper down the toilet. You're not supposed to. Just put it in the trash can.
All right, that's tip 1. Drag it down. Boom. Let's see. Keep playing for the next tips.
For the Americans, I know that's weird, but that's what it is here. For the folks from the United States, I know that's going to be kind of weird for you, but that's what it is here. 2.
All right, so there's my 2. Boop.
2. Don't drink water from the tap. Always get water that's filtered, bottled water, etc.
All right. I know I said that better later.
Gave us a giant jug of huge bottled water for us, and then we'll just go to a local store, get some more as we need it. But if you drink the water and you're from the United States, you'll probably get sick, so don't do it. And then, what else? Oh, the exchange rate, the peso to...
Let's see. Did I say it better in this one?
You're not supposed to. You're actually supposed to just...
I did take 2. Take 2.
I know that's different for the people in the United States, but that's how they roll down here in Mexico City. The other thing is... What was number 2?
Yeah, see how bad I am? Wow. Hilarious.
Oh. Second thing, bottled water.
There we go. I got there. Took a minute, but I got there, y'all.
Second thing, bottled water. Don't drink the tap water. If you're from the United States, you'll probably get sick.
There we go. And then third thing, I think, was about the pesos to American dollar exchange rate.
But I think you'll be fine with that. And then the third thing
is... Let's see if I got it.
And then the third thing is the peso to dollar ratio. So pesos, it's like 19 to 20 pesos to $1. So about 100 pesos is about $5. So when you're walking around trying to buy things, figure out what the conversion more or less is, that's where it lands. 19 to 20 pesos is a dollar.
Boom. 3 tips. Mexico City. We've created our first IG short reel thingamabob real quick. Okay. So, oh, should have silenced my phone. Dang it. All right. So we have this ready to go. You saw how I did that though. The shortcut that I use is if you don't, I programmed it into my mouse, but Command C Control C, or Command K Control K on a PC to just instantly use the razor tool to just cut wherever your playhead is. And that is what I like to do when I have created pancaking. That's what this is called, where you put 2 timelines on top of each other. I'll take everything in there and then slowly pancake and pull things down. And in that time, we have created a quick short. Now, obviously, once we come in here, we see it's not the right size or anything like that. Sure, but it's more or less ready to go. Now, if I wanted to take this a step further, I would start fine tuning. So I would be scaling, right? We also can go over the Adobe Auto Reframe feature, which I do love and use a lot. But for this type of stuff, for some reason, I don't know why, I just do it old school. But yeah, I would try to figure out the framing that I want for all that kind of stuff. And then I would start to color correct it and whatnot, which is what we will start doing tomorrow. So as we conclude, because we're at 11:52, as we conclude, what we're going to start doing tomorrow is we're going to start messing around with a whole bunch of different shorts and pulling and finding content in this project so we can get all of our short form content out and ready. Because as y'all probably know, when you're doing a longer vlog, that takes a while, right? You're going to be maybe editing that for a day, maybe 2, depending on how epic you want to be with it. So tomorrow, we're going to go into this Premiere Pro project and try to create as much short form content as we can from it. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to mess around with Express a little bit. I'm going to show y'all a way that I use Express, even, as a professional editor, quote unquote. I'm going to show y'all how I use Express to pull assets. So that way I don't have to pay for them and find them later. So it's going to be a good time. Again, I'll be back same time tomorrow. Hopefully this was helpful. Some of y'all I scared away because I'm getting too inside baseball, but check out the community, Creator Camp community, where I have a whole course for free to the public about Premiere Pro, and I go way in depth on everything I covered here. So without further ado, I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and I will check back in.